In this segment, we're going to have an extension of questions from diagrams and calculations in economics. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right. We have an interesting question here. I call it interesting because it's a question from the theory of demand and supply. And for any student who wants to become a specialist at economics as a subject, that student should go down and learn perfectly what the theory of demand and supply is. And don't forget that we have a video on this. Check it out if you really want to have a good knowledge, because demand and supply is where the application of economics lie. This question, let's focus on what the examiner wants from us. You have family income for period 1 is 1,000, period 2, 1,500. Quantity on clothing, you have 100, and then you have 200. And the examiner says, in the table above, the income elasticity of clothing is no big deal. You go straight to the point. There are two formulas for this. We have the conventional formula and then we have the shortcut formula. The conventional formula that we know, going by the definition of income elasticity of demand, it's percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in income. So if you're new to economics, please recall this. In income. When we have this formula, it will take you more time if you go through this. But you can convert this formula to the shortcut formula where we have change in quantity over change in income times first income over first quantity. How this become this? Please, you can look into our video on elasticity of demand. Now, if you have this as a change in quantity is Q2 minus Q1, and that's this. Where Q2 is 200, Q1 is 100. So we can go with 200 minus 100. The difference there will give you 100. I can also do change in income, which is new income against old income, and then we have 1,500 minus 1,000, yes. So eventually you have 500 naira. What do we have after that? Introduce this formula, you say, then change in quantity over change in income times first income over first quantity is equal to, my change in quantity is 100. I have that above, over change in income is 500 times my first income is 1,000. Don't forget. And then my first quantity is 100. So please, for those who are a bit confused, where Q1 is 100, Q2 is 200, Y1 is 1,000, Y2 is 1,500. If you go by this will take out this, and the zeros here will go off. You have 5 against 10, and you have 2. So what you have is 1 times 2 over 1 times 1. What do we have? Everything gives you 2. So 2 from that answer. Coming to the diagram, or coming to the question and the options, you can see that your correct option is Option what? D. And that is the best way to go about this. Learn the shortcut from our videos and then use it to save time. Thank you. Now, we have a table. And this table is extracted from the topic known as theory of production. So this production theory. And then the examiner wants to know the marginal productivity when the number of workers is increased from 2 to 3. Marginal productivity. Let's just create another line for it, for clarity. Marginal productivity is not anything difficult. Marginal productivity has a formula which we're going to follow to get to that point, 2 to 3 answer. Please take note. The first marginal productivity is always dash because we do not have any productivity prior to this. So we can't really check the difference and have marginal here because marginal productivity is defined as the extra or additional unit of output. We can only analyze that or find answers to that if we have the previous and the current level of output. We do not have that in this case because this is the first one, nothing to compare with. So this remains dash. So from this point, we can compare this against this, against this, against this, and then it gives that. So let's go straight to point 2 and 3. Point 2 and 3 is here and here. You recall. So our first question, recall, marginal productivity MP is equal to change in TP over change in quantity or output. Please. Change in TP can also mean TP2 minus TP1 over quantity 2 minus quantity 1. Let's consider total product is also the same as total output. Please don't forget. This is the same thing as total product. If we have TP2 to be here, TP3 to be here, we can now change this representation to accommodate 2 and 3. And that gives us TP3, we have 60. TP2, we have 52. Quantity 3 is 3, quantity 2 is 2. 52 against 60, we have 8, and then we have 1 below. So eventually we're going to have 8 units as our answer. And 8 units is option A. So with this use of diagram, you can always find a perfect answer for questions from marginal productivity. It's just straightforward, where TP means total product and Q quantity. So total product also means total output. And this one also means, so or level of output. So if we don't use this, we can use this. Don't use this, we can use this so that we don't get confused from what we can find on the table. Now, there are 2 questions from this diagram. The examiner wants us to answer. This is settled. Your answer is 8 kilograms because of this calculation. The next question is a bit technical. The examiner says the maximum number of workers that should be hired is. For you to know that, you might as well introduce the values. If this point is 8, You probably need to calculate this, and calculate that. But you can guess, you can have a perfect knowledge from the movement of your total output. Now, when you have to employ the fourth laborer, and then 66 units were produced, you brought in the fifth laborer, and then production refused to increase. Take note, 66, 66. The new worker did not add any value to the firm. It means that the firm need not to have spent the additional money they spent paying the fifth worker. At the fourth point of production, they would have stopped hiring, because hiring more workers made them lose to an extent, because there is nothing to gain employing the next worker. So they ought to have stopped employment at the fourth laborer or fourth worker. So I think if that's clear enough, option D is our answer. The maximum number of workers that should be hired is 4. Why? Because an increase in the number of laborers after 4 led to reduction. Because to proceed, 66, the sixth guy came in and we have 63. That's less than 66, and it's not going down well with the firm. So they would have maintained this point, the highest point of production. And that's at the point of what? Fourth employment, which makes our answer option D. Now we're considering a question from National Income Accounting. Specifically, we're looking at this question from the subtopic under national income known as equilibrium level of income. And now for equilibrium level of income, we need to realize that national income, or that equilibrium level, can be calculated as y is equal to c, or y is equal to c plus I, as the examiner has stated. This is a two-sector model, so all you need to do is substitute your c here, and then that gives you y is equal to all your c will have to go down, and then plus your I. What's my I? 45 million. Please pardon my Naira absence. I'm going to bring it in after the calculation. So 5045 gives us 95. And for 95 plus 0.75y, what any student needs to do is collect like terms. Collecting like terms, y minus 0.75, y is equal to 95. And then you have y 1 minus 0.75 is equal to 95. What they have in common here is y, that's why y is out. And then 1 minus 0.75 gives you 0.25. That's still equal to 95. We have y outside and then 95 over 0.25. My y is equal to 9,500 over 25. So you can avoid the use of calculator if the exam doesn't allow your use of calculator. So for this kind of question, you can move the decimal point 2 times and then add the zeros above. It gives us 9,500 against 25. You don't need to stress yourself. All you need to ask yourself is, if you can't go with 25, you can break it down to 5. 5 and 25 will give you what? 5. 5 here gives you 1. You have 1 moving to, if 5 is taken out of 9, you have 4. 5 in 45, you have 9. And then you have 0, 0, 0. So for any student who is not a specialist in mathematics, you can break it down this way. Y is equal to 1,900 over 25. You go with, over 5. So your 5 here, 1. 5 in 19, You can only get 3, which is 15. You have 4 left. 5 in 40 will give you what? 8. And then in 0, 0. So that gives you 380 million. That's option B for equilibrium level of national income. And that ends it. So if an examiner is giving you a question for this kind of equilibrium level of national income, all you need to do is reproduce the formula, substitute the components from the question into the formula, and then make y the subject of formula. That gives you your answer. Okay, viewers, this brings us to the end of this session of calculation and diagram questions. We hope to continue when next we come up again. But before then, don't forget to click on the like and subscribe button, turn on your notification, and also leave a comment. Thank you very much for being with CS Academy.